Coming in fifth amongst the world's most horrible prisons, Tent City in Arizona, where prisoners live in tents in the middle of the desert. And it can get as hot as 60 degrees Celsius. The highlight of the day is dinner. But the prisoners in Tent City are not very enthusiastic. Maybe that's because there's not very much choice. It's the same thing every day.
This we like to call kibble. No, I'm just kidding. It's like soy and, I don't know, dog food.
The dish contains mashed potatoes, dough balls, vegetables and soya, which has been processed into dog food.
Never. Not gonna touch it. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. You can dare me. It's not happening.
The men get the same food every day. No wonder, because the menu is created by United States' toughest sheriff, Joe Arpaio.
If they don't like the food, too bad. Don't come to jail. What did I run a... Gonna have Chinese one week, Italian the next? What is this, a hotel? I'm gonna take away their butter now. Save another $100,000.
If you take a picture of wet dog food, and then you see this after a couple bites, it looks just like wet dog food.
You know what they feed the pigs out on a farm? That's what it looks like.
I don't know, it's nasty. It's nasty stuff. I don't know, I wouldn't feed my dog it.
Added to this is a special torture. While the prisoners eat dog food every day, they have to watch cooking shows on TV.
That's good, they learn how to cook.
This kind of treatment has resulted in the sheriff being criticized by human rights organizations. So eventually, Tent City is being closed down. But there are even worse places. Fourth place among the world's most horrible prisons, the Sofia Central Prison in Bulgaria. A run-down building which hasn't been renovated since the Soviet era. Neither outside nor inside. In the so-called prison tower, nets have been installed to prevent murders and suicides. Everything here looks ancient. This is where new prisoners take their pictures. The guards record the data by hand. Afterwards, they give them a haircut, because long hair is a paradise for lice and fleas. It's hard to look behind the scenes here and see what the conditions are really like. But there are videos posted regularly on the internet that show the situation behind bars. A former inmate confirms these conditions. He remembers exactly what goes on inside the prison in Sofia. He was incarcerated for 6 years and served his entire sentence in Sofia.
Oh man. Not much has changed. It hasn't been that long.
If you ask him what the worst thing about this prison was, he doesn't know where to start.
The thing that breaks you is the lack of hygiene. and zero healthcare. Our cell? 9 people crammed into 130 square feet. 3 bunks on top of each other. Water comes in from everywhere. Some of the prisoners cover the ceiling with plastic to avoid having the water drip onto the bed. During the winter, of the 24 hours of a day, maybe 1 hour is warm. People aren't worth anything in here.
According to European law, inmates must have at least 4 square meters in a cell. But Bulgaria doesn't care. Here, it's just 2 square meters per inmate. Things are even more terrible here, in San Pedro in La Paz, Bolivia. Whoever goes through that gate has absolutely no rights at all. Within these prison walls, the inmates rule themselves. Guards stay outside. It's like a city within a city. The rules are set by so-called delegados, the inmate bosses. That's why San Pedro has its own set of punishments.
In there, in the pool, we drown the sex offenders. They're beaten, and then we dump them in there. That's it.
When no one's being drowned, children play around this pool. That's right, children live here, together with their parents, yet hopelessly neglected. This is because the parents are busy making money. Without it, life's impossible here. That's also the case with this family man.
Money rules daily life. I came here with 10,000 pesos. On the 3rd day, I only had 90 left.
Every month, he has to pay the delegados the equivalent of $100 rent for his cell. Otherwise, he and his family will end up on the streets of San Pedro. Whoever gets on well with the inmate bosses is allowed to do more responsible jobs. Those they don't like clean the toilets and sweep the yard. And those who don't do as they're told simply disappear without the guards ever knowing.
I have no idea what is going on in there. They do what they want inside those walls. We are not allowed to enter.
The government has written this prison off. It costs too much money. Now, the inmates rule and make their own rules. Terrible? The next prison even goes a step further. The South Cotabato jail in the Philippines. One of the most overcrowded prisons in the world. 69 prisoners share a cell of just 80 square meters. Newcomers have a particularly hard time because the decision about where they sleep is made by the cell leader, also an inmate. This means either sleeping on the floor or right at the top where the heat accumulates. Someone being allowed to enter the yard is also up to the cell leader.
It's unbelievably hot. I can't breathe. I feel claustrophobic. I don't know how I'll make it.
The daily task for new inmates is scrubbing the floor, the most menial activity in prison. The inmates are under constant supervision by the cell leaders. Only those who follow the rules can work their way up and get more privileges.
It stinks. Disgusting. At least I'm outside and can move around, even if the work's degrading.
A terrible system. And to make matters worse, nobody knows when they'll get out of here. South Cotabato Jail is a remand center, but many inmates wait years for a trial. The undisputed #1 amongst the world's worst prisons. The Antananarivo jail in Madagascar. Madagascar is one of the few countries where the plague is still a major problem. And the prisoners are exposed to this danger without any protection. They live among rats, in the midst of garbage and in extremely unsanitary conditions. If the plague breaks out here, it spreads like wildfire. Because the prisoners sleep back to back. Turning around is only possible on command.
Come on, turn around.
Well, since I've been here, I sleep 1 hour and 30 every night, no more. Because of the fleas, because of what you think of what's happening outside. But I try to survive. And I hope that on Monday, when the sentence will be pronounced, I can go home.
But even here, prisoners sometimes wait for years for a trial. And those who do not abide by the prison rules until then are sent to the hellhole, into solitary confinement. That means alone in a filthy hole with no daylight and no toilet.
All you can do is sit around in there, sit around and sleep. But you're virtually sitting on your own excrement, sitting around and sleeping. I didn't have any clothes like these. I was naked down to my underpants. It's damned tough. You can't even take a spoon in there with you, so you have to eat with your hands. But your hands are filthy with your own excrement. So you can imagine what it's like.
An overcrowded prison, unhygienic, full of rats and the risk of dying of the plague. An undisputed #1 spot among the world's most terrible prisons.